Hello. It's Dr. Akila Kamaat. Welcome, all beautiful souls. 11 lights to you and to yours, and to everything you wish to fulfill and are fulfilling in your life that makes you unique and just an essential part of this energy field that we call Earth. Yeah, I know I'm off the beaten track coming in here on this Tuesday, but again, my schedule's a little not yet down pat. And what's so sad about it is, look, starting a new venture here, doing my thing, and I get all this wonderful advice from folks doing this work, and they say, make a schedule, be consistent, go on. The one thing that I can't seem to nail down is the consistency to go on. But I'm here and now. So I'm just going to take a look at my little live stream to see if it's coming up. And I think it's acting weird, but I see something. There we go. So yes, this is a check-in, card pull, let's talk. And I wasn't going to come on, but sometimes as somebody who has heightened senses and can have a knowing, the knowing was saying, go on. And I wasn't resisting it. I didn't actually know why. I did jot down some notes, which I believe were coming to me from otherworldly communication sources. So I will talk about some of the things that came to me. I will share them. Again, welcome. Love lights, beautiful souls. I'm glad you're here. Let me do the work here first. Please comment if something resonates, like, and subscribe, because it helps with the algorithms and it helps with new people, new creators, to get visibility. And I know everybody's busy. Who has time to press a thumbs up or a subscribe button? I know you do. And you will do that for me. Thank you so much. All right, y'all. I got to finish that work. Okay, yes. So I didn't really have any teaching planned. I mean, I did that for the last two videos. And, teaching isn't the end all be all. I come on and I provide education or teaching things, aspects that really help folks unfold through the process of the Power of Release program. So everything that's up here is insight. First of all, to share with everyone as it goes up on YouTube, but also to let you know, this is how you feel the power of release. And it's really hard for me to see if there's never any. Look, there's chat. I just have not found all the people chatting yet. So look, I'm not saying any death. I'm not speaking death over any of this, and neither should you speak death. And when people say speak life, speak death, speak death could be things like a joke. You look crazy. That's speaking death. That's low vibration. What the heck does that even mean, looking crazy? You could be more clear. That orange and purple plaid shirt and pants, they don't go together. In my perspective, perhaps you'd want to try on something else before you go in that job interview. That's life. That's speaking life. And so I guess, in one sense, I'm coming on to give a little bit more background to myself and, why I'm here. And I try to give that out a little bit at a time, because it's not only about me. I mean, it is about me. I mean, I am the axis upon which all of this channel, all my channels, my content, I'm the axis. I'm the axis, right? And when I was in college, I learned that there was a different axis around which everything evolved, revolved, informed by that center, that axis. And back in my day, it was white supremacy, right? Still is. Everything revolved around that. Granted, I'm still living in this society, but through actions to build self-sovereignty, I understand that the axis has to be me. And the axis has to be you. It can't be anybody else that you fashion yourself after, or fashion your life after, or build your core beliefs on, or your values. It has to come from you. And the weird thing about it is that people believe that it is them. Look, I thought it was me. I would always say, oh, you living in that box. You in a box. You in a box. That's why you can't see nothing. You just overtaken by somebody else's frameworks and beliefs. You living in a box, a shoe box. Let's tell my nephew all the time. Well, you in that shoe box. You got holes in the side of it so you can see, and your butt may be coming out the lid a little bit, but you squashed in that box, believing that I was not in a box. And the box is an ideological reality and belief system. The box is that. And we squish ourselves in the box to put a lid on. The reason why I said he had eyes and the butt was up is because he's beginning to realize that he has the power to create his own reality, to do his own things. Yes, I would say that to people. Little did I know that I was living in a box, believing I was not. That somehow I was crafting my reality and ways of being according to what I believed was me. And that's what gets us into this idea of resonance. Like, we can be in resonance with something that is foreign to us, but we have taken up that resonance, believing all that foreignness is who we are. And it feels so natural. I keep saying things like, it's like the air we breathe. We don't even think about it. And people get mad when you challenge that. This is my world. I make my own decisions. I'm doing what I want to do. This is me. I'm doing me. No, baby. No babies. No beautiful souls. You're not doing you, especially if you have not recognized the way in which you are attached to the box. It's one thing to say, it's me, it's me, it's me. That's cool. With no reflection about the box, the ideology, the beliefs. Then anybody who says that and has not done reflective work to understand the ways in which this society may hold them captive, the systems that we exist within hold our thoughts and beliefs and values, our thinking captive, our cognition captive. If that's not being done, then look, that person is just huffing and puffing with no substance. Now, if they're huffing and puffing and they've been doing the work, yeah, okay, maybe they're exercising some of that speaking life. This is my world. They may not be there yet, but they're claiming that stuff, right? Because they're doing the work. And you know what's so interesting is that I am at the right time in this cosmic dance that's happening, the planets and the astrology. The planets are saying it's time to wake up, to question. And I'm here to help you wake up and help you question an existence that you may not be feeling quite happy about. Put aside the political Of course, that's dragging us around for those folks who are attached to that broke down system. And for many Black folk, that system has been broke down since the first slave ship came to Virginia. Was it the 1600s? It was always broke down. This is no surprise to us. We're not, oh my God, my life is over. Our lives have never been over, but most of us, have not been attached to any belief in freedom, fairness, democracy in America. That's just not part of my and many others' 3D reality. So some of us are not wedded to politics and all that stuff because we know it's broke. And when we think about it, capitalism and democracy are actually like oxymoronic. Like, was it oxymoron? Then you can't, they are Superman and kryptonite. They don't go together. How can you have a democracy when capitalism reigns supreme? And this is not why I came on, but I'm just saying that has been in my thoughts. How can you have a democracy when capitalism is what runs the society? Capitalism has run amok. It has always run amok. It ran amok when Black people were being exploited as slaves to make people rich all over America. There may be some good people spread out. That was capitalism. And why do we think capitalism is going to be any different? Of course, it's going to get even more egregious. And if it's more egregious, and we are the cattle, we are the people who are the consumer cattle. That's how capitalism makes its money. Yes, there may be international connections, right? Geopolitical sphere of activity that also is part of capitalism. Capitalism and whatever this thing is, democracy, are not suited for each other. And you will say, England and most places are capitalistic. No, they have a different perspective on these things. America is the only place on the globe that is abject capitalism. Abject capitalism. Capitalism supersedes democracy any day. And as you see, you could be a freaking horrific criminal. And in a capitalist society, with the feign of democracy, right? The feign of democracy. Because it's not real democracy, right? With the feign. Allow a person who is a businessman grabbing people by the Uchi, felon, accused rapist, actually be in charge of America. That's democracy. That ain't no democracy. I was looking at democracy with downloads. Democracy, from my perspective, begins with demon. Demon. No, there is no N there, but democracy. Like, that's not democracy. That is, they say it's illiberal democracy, illiberal. They don't want government structures telling people what to do. What? Nobody wants that. But we want to pay taxes so that we have resources and stuff, right? It ain't telling us what to do. We're investing our money in the government so that it could be there when we need it. That's not even the track I wanted to get onto. But capitalism and democracy cannot function together, and they do not support equity and fairness. Capitalism and democracy, capitalism cannot support equity and fairness just by the very nature of what it means to be a capitalist. So don't get it twisted. The energy, the frequencies that we're being pulled into to be a certain way to support this really frenetic energy that is absolutely not conducive to life. All this, it is an illusion, but at the same time, it's a 3D world that we inhabit. And so I'll say it one more time. Capitalism and democracy cannot exist as two things that are running a country. They are opposed to each other. Democracy, true democracy, does not support capitalism, and capitalism by its very nature will destroy democracy. Enough on that. And that being said, though, right? Yes. There's many things that ruminate and are downloaded into this energy field and into this body that is part of my axis of interpretation, my axis of production, my axis of knowing. But it's interesting when we think about axis and resonating in ways that are conducive to your self-sovereignty and a sense of freedom. And that sense could actually be behavioral freedom. Of course, I always say true freedom people could not deal with. But, people who, they start businesses, they start doing something that they want to do regardless of who thinks what. This is the sense of freedom there. Being able to create. Creative expression is freedom. And most of us have that squashed as soon as we start being a kid. Others have the parents that want to beat them up. We're never going to make no money doing that art. But they keep doing it. There's some people just push through or go to it later on in life. Then there are those who believe the crazy behind message that you should not place yourself within your authentic mode of expression because it's not going to be suitable for your life. The main spiritual energy, the main download that we have from the cosmic consciousness, the divine intelligence to run our engine, the ways in which we creatively express self is taken away. It's better now, maybe, but still everybody's running to become a cybersecurity person. That's going to make me some money. See, capitalism and freedom, they don't go together. I'm telling you, this whole thing needs to be done anew because people are not actually seeing who they are, the power of who they are, right? And that's purposeful because if we were all walking around in our power, society would be uniquely different. And that's why part of my walk and my soapbox is that there needs to be more people who have an expanded spiritual placement, not necessarily to denigrate and hurt people because they don't have the same spirituality, but I think that's the work of religion, right? Religion does that. Spirituality is, or it should be, expansive, and more people need to move into these spaces of governing and policy making that are in the ascension because they see and they know what's coming up. There's a reason why intuition and psychic this, psychic that, it seems like some kind of joke. Anything that's powerful is put in a position that we denigrate it. And we individually, every one of us, each individual is powerful. First of all, because we are 100% energy, the only thing that gives us like mass and, some sort of solid feeling, which of course we're like almost water, is just the way the molecules, the atoms are like populating, that make it seem hard, that make things seem hard. Everything is energy. And if we understood how we are entangled, like truly our energy is entangled with everything, and that we can draw on the energy and knowing and wisdom, and from this entanglement, if we could actually sit in this space, can you imagine how powerful everyone would be? But that's all crazy talk. Oh, that's crazy. There's no science behind that. Well, now they're doing, quantum physics. So all this stuff is being explainable. It's wonderful to have a scientific grounding. But I'm going to tell you, the knownness that people have, and the expertise around the knownness is denigrated if it's not situated within a box. And so, like I said, my journey here, I'm on the scene at the right time. The message I offer is in resonance with what the cosmos needs to happen within us. I mean, you could say all the spiritual guys, look, I don't care about nobody else. I care about myself as far as my message and what I'm supposed to give out. And what I do know is that the Power of Release program, everything that I do would not exist if it hadn't been from my work, my study, my research as an academic. More than 25 years as a student and, working as a faculty. My wheelhouse is identity. I am an identity expert. No, not like a psychologist, although the field of communication draws on multiple disciplines. And the thing about communication is when people hear it, they automatically think social media, mass media, interpersonal communication. They don't think about the ways in which the society tells us, communicates to us who we are, and drills down on it time and time again. They don't think about the communication we have with ourselves, right? That's like, oh, that's not part of communication. Yes, it is. All that. And then some. And so my research into identity was, after a certain point, just opened my mind up so much. I started out as a student, I was in the whole gangster rap sort of movement. I was like Little Kim down. Love me some Little Kim. I wrote a paper one time where I talked about, she was talking about her cooch. And it was like the sun. I put it in the paper. She wants everybody to see her son. The professor was like, I'm not buying that. Of course, it was a Black male professor, who understands the womb and the vaginal canal as being uniquely aligned with the cosmos, as being an aspect of it to hibernate, protect, and grow the fetus. And then the birth canal as a wormhole to do quick birth, to get that spirit out here so they can begin to understand their mission if they can hear and see the signs. I didn't even know that then, but I knew something. And so over time, I even was like, and a lot of my research was around digital. Like, like I was around when the internet started, right? The whole history. And I was like, Donna Haraway down. She was like the cyborg queen. She talked about how people, the changes and the feminist perspective on the digital world. And I was studying web rings. Do you remember web rings? If you're my age, 59, like now we have social media platforms, right? Back in the day, people used to put themselves with a sign, Wicca web ring, or say Black Wicca web ring. There would be all the Black people practicing Wicca, and they would have all their pages under this banner. And that was like the community. I would study this stuff. And to me, as a student of I was pre-med first. I wanted to be a doctor. Everybody says that, right? I mean, it was true. But I was also an entertainer. And so communication made sense to me. Little did I know how phenomenal it would be. And that it would actually lead me into my spiritual awakening. Okay? So, what was I saying before I did a little sidebar there and got off track? So, I'm looking at these web rings, and that was my master thesis. I also did community informatics. I was looking at how communities were using, these moves. That's all before gaming. Muds and moves, they actually typed their worlds out in type. I am the master grifter of the realm of Oz. I will get my sword and destroy the legions of doom. This is typed out in great detail. Now we got gaming. I mean, look, in my lifetime, now we got fucking AI, for God's sake, right? Everybody's like AI. Yes, AI is jacked up. There needs to be some rules around it. But let me tell you, I find AI to be particularly helpful for a startup business. Okay? So anyway, so it was interesting. I was reading about I was studying mass media and the representation of Blackness. Of race, class, and gender. The representation means how Black people were placed into the social discourse as a performer. How were they represented? What was the discourse? What was the narrative around these people? Not only as it was societal, but cultural, right? And for me, I had the knowing, although it took me like years. Let me tell you, when I first found out about slavery as a child, I just was flabbergasted. I could not wrap my head around that actually happening here in America, right? I mean, for years, I would go through this thing like, that's unbelievable. I can't believe that happened. I mean, seriously, I could not wrap my head around a whole population of people being enslaved and brutalized to make other people money. It just sounded so like, it was true. And so I go into this with this understanding about how Black people have been treated in this society. So I'm looking at it through the lens of like racism, but not really focused on it completely. I was looking at gender and, class. And I was very intrigued with class, right? Because nobody wants to talk about, class culture or class-based culture. It's like, ooh, don't talk about that. You're trying to say there's a culture around being poor. I'm just going to leave it there. So anyway. So I began to understand the idea of ascribed identity. Ascribed identity is when you take on an identity that has been constructed. You either just fall into it uncritically, you adopt it because you want to make some money. Could be a combination of both. So it could be strategic. Or you just look. I didn't know. A lot of people took on ascribed identities, and identities that are ascribed are created by someone else, and then we sit in them, as opposed to an avowed identity. Avowed identity is something that comes from us. And I know it's so hard to even think about this. Well, what's my identity? This is me. Power release program, buddies, beautiful souls. And nobody wants to work toward self-resolution. So many other things to worry about. Why should we be concerned about who we are and if we're truly living the life that we were placed on this earth to live? Why not just sit in some track to get paid? Just make somebody else the money, make them rich. I'm getting paid. I got benefits. I'll get retirement. To each his own. And I can see people doing this. That's a box. But why do we have to sit in the box and not even think about any of the things that are controlling us? The box is okay if you understand what's really going on, right? And so we got this ascribed identity people are taking on. You can see it in the people who are rapping, like the women had to come out and be all hard and all sexual. Now, my thing is, look, that's already there. They're just giving it creative expression. But on the other flip side, there's people who were, wanting to make money off these people, just ginned it up some. And then avowed comes from us. But as I said, we don't even know who the hell we are to even think about. And the thing about it is, many of these people on YouTube are sitting in their avowed identity. Many, not all. I'm going to say a lot, not many, several. But like the web rings that I studied as a master's student for my thesis, that was a space of exploration, overcoming the norms that controlled race and Black women and free expression. This was the decentralized space of just being in media. But that was always pushed up against, who was controlling it, right? Because we only operate within the tools that are provided for us, right? But still, I still had that sense, though, that the internet, back then it was cyberspace, could provide a space of exploration and creative expression. Now everybody's affected. And by affected, that comes from my entertainment background, where people just can't come on and be them. They got to be like that. Oh, the news. Everything that seems to be clickbait or viral is where people are jumping in. Now they're packaging this stuff. Still, even in a space of freedom and expression, even if we're using the tools, somebody would say the master's tools, even in the space, people are packaging every freaking thing about being a personality in the digital space. And now it's all about the viral $1 million views and of this and of that. So think about it. Many other people you see doing this work, I'm not saying the spiritual work, but just, in these social media spaces are affected. They're taking on an ascribed identity of how to be in this space as a commentator, as a news person, as a this, as a that. Nothing changes. And so, yes, I did this work looking at ascribed identities versus avowed identities. Who are we? And it still did not dawn on me that I was a part of this ascription. And so, but I stayed in the lane of identity, right? And then I started looking at something called internalized isms. Internalized racism, internalized white superiority, and anything could be internalized. And the issue when we talk about things that are internalized is that all of a sudden becomes a realm of psychiatry. And psychiatry and psychology has nothing, no help for the way in which society makes us freaking sick. They can't even address it, touch it. This is their realm. So, for those of us scholars who are doing this work, the term embodied became important because we embody things. They become a part of us. And as they are a part of us, they function in every capacity. Our unconscious, our conscious, our behavior, our talk, our thoughts, our cognition. Embodied means just that. It becomes us. So let the psychiatrists and the psychologists keep the internalized, because they can't get to the real reality of what the frick is going on anyway, right? They are not talking about the ways in which society, these systems get inside of us and wreak havoc. It's all, again, as I said in the past live, it's the person's got the problem, right? No, baby. We wouldn't have any problems if society wasn't so jacked up. Point blank, period. And so studying identities, ascribed identities, what we're seen as, how we represent or are represented in discourse, like media discourses on the TV, in other spaces. I mean, anything is seen as media. Media could be anything. A medium is anything. And that is, many mediums become media, okay? And anything's a medium. That's painting a picture. An environment. The work environment is a medium. Your love relationship is a medium of representation. Anything can be a medium. Everything is media. Just like communication is everything. And so, as I moved on in my research, I began to look at, because before my thing was, how is this society, this world, narrating Black womanhood, right? How are they telling us who we are, right? So it was an external thing. That's where I started. And then somewhere along the line, I'm telling you, let me tell you, divine intelligence will get you where you need to be. I shifted into embodied identities. And you know why? Because the first time I left academia and opened my own little research pipeline shop, which I should have stuck. Well, look, I'm supposed to do whatever the flow of life is taking me. I have plans, but some things are just for a season and not forever. I started looking at pregnancy and the stereotype, the strong Black woman. And I started researching a lot about the strong Black woman. And for those of you who don't know, I mean, the corollary is superwoman stereotype or superwoman schema. That applies to everybody. But I'm talking uniquely about how I moved into this understanding of ascribed as embodied, and how that embodied identity can completely erase, diminish, stop, stifle any piece of authentic, avowed identity coming forward. And so I started studying about this Black woman, strong Black woman in pregnancy, because my first foray into the strong Black woman stereotype or as I call it now, the strong Black woman schema, and then even more refined, is the strong Black woman adaptive coping mechanisms. Okay? So we kind of, as our knowledge increases, we have to have our language follow suit to really say what it is that is the issue. Adaptive coping tool or mechanism, okay? To take the power away a little bit. And so for me, it was internalized racism, Black women taking up how racism says they are, right? And I'm gonna get to some of that. And then having all kind of pushback regarding that's for psychiatrists, like what? I can't. So then I understood it as embodied racism. And that's when the discourses, the narratives, history, and everything that says who we are, that is not us, that's situated within a racist framework, we take up and believe we are that. Now, there's much more succinct and scientific definitions for embodied. But the strong Black woman, you know, for women who embody the schema, it is connected with a host of chronic diseases. I mean, I can't even go into them right now. A host of chronic diseases, mental health challenges like anxiety, depression, hopelessness, worthlessness, powerlessness, and just the sickness, you know, the inflammation, because the strong Black woman is always on. Fight, 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 freeze, always on. And with that always on, you know, people talk about how Black women are fat. Well, let me tell you, us being on and embodying the strong Black woman schema is a antecedent, but it contributes to adipose tissue buildup, right? You get a little chunky around there. And that's on the cortisol. That's, you know, that hypothalamus pituitary axis. You know, that's what gets all rigid and we start going crazy in survival modality. And it just secretes cortisol, which is tied to belly fat. And of course, society will say, Black women, they're greedy, they're lazy, they're fat. No, baby. We would probably be walking in all of our fit glory if we didn't have to adopt adaptive coping strategies that screw us up in order to maintain some semblance of whatever, to be able to be in a society. So I started with the health effects, the outcomes from embodying racism as perceived through the strong Black woman schema. So embodied racism, I looked at it through the uptake of the strong Black woman schema. So I was looking at the health impacts. I just knew this had to play a role in birth, because it was the whole Black mortality, morbidity, the infant and the moms, the maternal and perinatal mortality and morbidity. It's escalating all over the world. And so I was just like, this has to play a role. And so I looked at all that. And then I wanted to know, what is the schema, right? And so the schema is, I'm going to try to get them all, emotionless. Don't show emotion, because the next one is invulnerability. We're invulnerable. Okay? So emotionless, invulnerability, the strength, right? Strong, right? Strong. perseverance with anti-resources, right? Within pathogenic environments that don't necessarily give us the resources we want. So it's perseverance, no matter what, with nothing, okay? And then there is perfectionism. It's got to be perfect. I'm trying to think, is there any? Oh, we take care of everybody else but us. And without any research, I could think of all the Black women that I know in my life. And still, I wasn't seeing that in myself, but I could see this operating over time. Okay? And so then I started going back to history. Like, where did this come from? The legacy of shadow slavery. Look, I'm being really, academic here. There's slavery, then there's shadow slavery. America has shadow, S-H-A-T-T-L-E. I think that's it, or S-H-A-T-T-E-L. Shadow slavery. And I see that as just being in bondage to a place, right? Lockdown. And so everybody, you couldn't show emotion. Go back and read. You get brutalized. You couldn't show vulnerability. Be sick. You might get brutalized. You might even die. No vulnerability. Strong? Oh, you had to show strength because you had to carry around them damn bushels or whatever you was carrying around. Tobacco, cotton, white babies, whatever. Perseverance with little resources. There are accounts that didn't even hardly get food to eat, let alone health care. And if they got food, it was the garbage pieces that the people didn't want to eat. Granted, some of those garbage pieces are really yummy. Perseverance, because look, let me tell you, nothing else. We problem solvers. We can make something taste good. If you got to eat it, we're going to make it taste good. And so invulnerability, no emotions, invulnerability, perseverance, with little resources, take care of everybody else but ourselves, Black women. We're responsible for everybody because, the kids get crazy, lazy, or the husbands or whatever. Like, we had to do all of this and take care of ourselves. That wasn't even part of any of that. There was no take care of us. I don't even know we were able to wash. Perfectionism. You don't clean that cotton out that row of that field road. I'm gonna roll this horse over you. You got every single scrap of cotton. So you didn't get run over by a horse. So what's that? Emotionless, invulnerability, perseverance with little resources, perfectionism, take care of everybody else, and the strength, right? I called them all. That was what we had to be in the most horrific, living, brutal, absolutely debased living situation that anybody could be in. Not to mention we didn't have our language. And they wouldn't teach us how to read. And they took away our names. So you see Toby in Roots is talking about Kutu Kinte. And they're saying, Toby, say Toby. Kutu Kinte. And they beat the crap out of him. Yeah, I'm making light of this stuff. It happened, and it's a shameful thing. It's still here in the society. But I don't even want to get into all that. But this idea of the strong Black woman, as I did this deep dive, I understood that in academia, I was the quintessential manifestation of the embodiment of the strong Black woman in every way, shape, and form. Of course, reflection, study, quiet time, journaling, allowed me to see that I had embodied these maladaptive. These are coping strategies that are not healthy. So they're maladaptive coping strategies. While they may work to have you erase yourself completely to fit into the mold of the system, you gone. We take that shit home with us. Because we get home. Then our families, as the research shows, expect us to be this strong Black woman. So I did this research. And as I learned more and more and more and more, I was like, oh my God, this thing is taking over my life. And I had to remove that stuff from me. And the first thing I removed was the idea of strong, right? We talk about avowed, right? We're talking about identity that comes through us. The first thing is recognition, power release. And in this case, the recognition definitely required some language shifts. So no one ever calls me strong. I'm not a beast of burden. I'm not carrying something. Oh, you're a strong woman. I don't know what the freak that means other than what it meant. They say it, I correct them. Sometimes gently, sometimes not. Please don't use that word in reference to me. My preferred term is powerful. People got a problem with that. I don't give a shit. And neither should you. Language is the first thing you captivate for yourself. And even things that don't relate to the strong Black woman, like sex. I mean, all that stuff was crazy for me. And that wasn't the word I used. But it was just so like, in me wanting to transform my resonance, I started using the word pleasure. That made sense to me. And when you change the language about the things you have embodied, you begin to see yourself in a different framework. And so through this strong Black woman realization, understanding that I was held captive through embodied racism, it resonated in everything about me. I didn't really know this was happening, but I began to undo. First came the language, and then I began to undo. And then what I couldn't undo, I was forced out of. Like, get out of here. Like, literally. I started studying melanin. I call it melanin metaphysics. That was my first placement to begin to root out embodied racism. Because the whole thing is about your skin color, right? It's about what color your skin is, how it's seen in a society. So if we're buying into, through embodied racism, through acting out some of these things that are racist and we don't know it, we are co-signing the fact that we got a problem because we're Black. If we weren't Black-skinned, it would be different. And so that was the first step that I took toward avowing my identity. And then the rest rolled through there. But as I was writing the books about my experience in academia, studying more and more, I realized that I already knew this, but I realized that many, many men and women embodied certain identities, but primarily women. I was like, I've got, we're white women too impacted by this embodied feminism, racism, genderism. And I was able to release that and become the axis of my own reality, my own 3D, 5D, 2D reality. And it became important for me the power release program just evolved, but it evolved because of my understandings of embodied social constructs, ascribed identities, and avowed identities, and how we are put to sleep. and don't even know who we are because we take up a resonance that is artificial, fake, prepackaged. And that's really how the power release program came to be, not to mention being a psychic advisor. For a long time, 30 years, you can only imagine some of the things I've heard and how women just sit, and men too, just sit in these ascribed ways of being and embodied ways of being that are not them. And I have to navigate this field of disillusionment with them because they don't understand. They have taken up the illusion, a 3D illusion that they are this as opposed to this. And that's the reason why I pull in my tarot, especially in the recognition radar phase, because it's semantic, metaphysical tarot readings. Yes, I developed them. And as a matter of fact, I'm working on the manual because as a psychic, I actually am therapy for people. I counsel people. And for some reason, psychics, again, ascribed identities, fortune tellers, party favors, let them connect with the dead. No, baby. Yes, we have these skills, but we are therapists too. And so the semantic metaphysical tarot reading system is to put science, a way to understand how I work with a client. Provides information about things that they're holding on to, patterns they keep reimagining but doing the same way, and what needs to be released. And yes, I'm a PhD, so yes, it's science-backed, right? So there's like a release profile, a trajectory. There's mapping, a whole system where I'm explaining to practitioners, psychic practitioners, how to capture this information, especially for those psychic practitioners like myself who provide the reading, but also offer the services that can help clients get out of the loop that's not serving them anymore. You know, I didn't even mean to go through all this. I'm not claiming to be, although I do have malpractice insurance, right? You got to have that. But the whole thing about ascribed identities of psychics, there is no union. There's no place that manages how much we get paid. There's nothing, no organized framework of accreditation. I mean, people are trying to do it, but it's insane to me how we could speak life, guidance, advice into people and they listen, and yet we are called fortune tellers. And some people take up that identity. They embody it. I mean, I see some folks doing psychic, so I don't know what they're doing. They just, I don't know. They want to get, what's it called, viral stuff? So yes, I'm putting together this reading system to help people understand what identities they're operating within. For me, it's all about our sense of self. I went nuts today. I covered a lot of stuff. But look, I was thinking about the psychic stuff. Like, we're one-stop shopping, career, finances, love relationships, families, friends, social networks, opportunities. They call us. They want to know about this stuff, whatever they call. And then we hold them down with insights and predictions, right? Based on cosmic and collective consciousness, downloads, spirit and ancestral knowing, our own intuition, wisdom, experience, expertise that we bring to the table. We get guidance and advice is like therapy. It's personalized. Guidance is sort of like the big picture, right? But advice is personalized, targeted, specific messages. And yet, if you want to make money, you got to go out on your own and hope you get clientele. Because if you're on these psychic sites, You either got to fit their plan of how you do things, or it's just like any other business. You can get all the likes you want, but there's foul practices in this realm as well. And one of them is get paid pennies on a dollar. And people are getting used to that. They seek out talented, established, phenomenal readers. And the client is okay with paying them pennies on a dollar just to get the information. The client should be the one saying, something's wrong here. But I'm saying, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, and starting out with your own psychic business is not easy at all. You got to hustle like anything else. And then it still may not be possible. So you got to mix stuff together. And then people are like, well, you got to get this certificate, chakra, yoga, all these different things just to prove your viability, to prove you're credible. Life coaching. Psych has been life coaching a lot longer than that freaking certificate came into being. Anyway, I talked my head off. I think I came on and I did what I had to do today. So check in. We did not do a card pull, although I did have okay, I'll do a card pull real quick because I'm getting ready to hang up. Or not hang up. See, you know when I say stuff like that. What I got here, I got the Grimoire of Shadows. I have class tonight. Yes. Believe it or not, I'm getting certified as an alcohol and drug counselor. Can't find any kind of part-time work in that space because you got to be internship. You got to be internship before you take the test. And that's a weird behind profession. And there's so much bias and discrimination. And yeah, I worked in a space for a minute and then decided I wanted to be a counselor. And, I thought it'd be a nice part-time hustle. Plus it would exercise my counseling chops for my power release program. I mean, it's still exercising them because I have the classes. And, I did HIV counseling once upon a time. And I've done groups with, rehabilitative groups. And, and there's been counseling in different ways off and on over the years, but this is specific to alcohol and drugs. And the reason why I decided to go with alcohol and drugs is because I think that people got some issues and they're addicted to a lot of things. It's not just alcohol and drugs. Addicted to money, addicted to the affect, fitting in what everybody else is doing, addicted to virality, addicted to themselves as they exist with the identity they just put on. Addiction is rampant. Addicted to the computer screen, addicted to work, addicted to exhaustion as a sign that they're working hard. Let me see what we got here. Okay, I'm gonna let one fly out. I'm just gonna do one because I gotta hang up. It's like one of the, I keep saying hang up. Yeah, I got a problem. All right. Look, I already know. Keep putting the work in. Keep putting the work in. Because I sit in the divine consciousness and I have faith. Because I know I'm at the right time in our cosmic history, in the solar history. Here we go. Messenger of light. This is for you. Whoever is listening to this right now, okay? Your voice brings healing. Speak with honesty and compassion. The world is listening. That's all I'm doing right now. That's what it looks like. Not that you can see that. That's what I'm talking about right there. You are a messenger of light. We all are. If we can rip off that fake identity that you're walking around with thinking is yours, and you will see your light. But you know what? You know I got to go through my stuff. So look, please comment, like, subscribe, comment if anything hit home. Tell me what you know about identity, right? Have you dealt with identity? Like, have you questioned your identity? And if so, what happened? Did you seek to change who you were? Got pushed back? Put some comments in there. And like and subscribe, please. And so while I'm here with requests, I'm going to tell you something. Get your 10-minute complimentary somatic metaphysical tarot reading by me. As I said, I am completing the manual and practice guide for practitioners in understanding how to read the cards in a somatic metaphysical manner, how to document, how to provide a report to the client. Try it out. It's not about prediction. It's not about you testing me out to see if I got psychic chops. It's the work of understanding what you're holding and what needs to be released. Okay? Yes, I am the psychic therapist extraordinaire. QR code. Complimentary. Get your get. What am I doing here? Okay. And also, for those of you who are interested in beginning some of this power release work on your own, recognizing, understanding resonance, releasing, reframing, there are 7 practice guides free up in the link in bio. Please get them. Use them. There's no sign up. Just get them and use them. I took the sign up away. I didn't know if that was holding people back from getting a free resource. I mean, everybody can't be like me, right? I'm the type of person that wants all the resources I can have. It's going to help me up my walk in life, up my vibration in life. I guess a lot of people are like that. They're there. Get them. QR code, take your link in bio. You can click on it. It opens a flip book. A flip book is an online book with a URL. You can hit the download and it will be a PDF for you. Look, I don't know what people put themselves in AI, do all kind of stuff. When it comes to signing up and hitting a website, it's like, oh my God, I'm going to get my information. Look, your information is got. It's already got. All right, next. And guess what? You do the free semantic metaphysical read, 10 minutes, and then you can take it further with the practice guides that I showed you, and then come see me. 75% off eligible transformational resonance sessions, as well as psychic advising sessions. 75% off. That code does not require email. It takes you directly to my website. And no, we do not grab your email. Go to link in bio and see my privacy policy and terms of service. You understand what happens to your data. And I always got to say, go get the book. Power Release. This was where I just threw up. What happened to me? I didn't go with the strong Black woman, but look, the Kindle version, the ebook doesn't have as much information or story as the paperback, but the paperback I think is $9.99. Kindle's $5.99. Easy read, quick read, it's nice and short, but it is just my experience of what happened to me as I moved from a space of just not me, a ascription and embodied junk to a space of clarity and self-sovereignty and experimentation. Get the book. All right, my friends at the end. Thank you, beautiful souls. For anybody who sat with me today, I thank you for sitting with me today in this check-in carpool. Let's talk. Yeah, just share me. I'm doing all these videos where I'm like, I have like notes and stuff. Feels nice just to be free and just talk. But I just wanted to give a little background into who I was and why I'm here and checking in, pulling cards, and talking. Thank you, beautiful souls. And thank you. I wish you blessings and prosperity in every which way they can manifest, and for you beyond what you can conceive. All right. Be blessed. Bye bye. Thank you.